Now, we will start today's last presentation. Chinese Prints in Leykam Room by Dr. XiaoFei LI.
Okay, thanks for the invitation of Mr. Crystal, Mr. Aoki, and the Umi-Mori Museum. The Rococo room, Leykam Room, was initially made between 1760 and 1770 by order of Vincent Graf Sawyer and at Stempelgasse 7 in Graz, Austria. And in 1806 was sold to Andres Leykam, a printer and publisher. And 82 years later, this room had to give way to the expansion of the print shop and was given as a gift to Cultural Historic Salon, and finally was moved to Palace Museum Graz in 2011. In Leykam Room, the most arresting thing is 28 sheets of Chinese woodcuts on the wall. Each sheet of woodcuts has a height of 100 centimeter and a width of 53 centimeter, with graceful Chippendale frame. Unfortunately, in 2018, Leykam Room was dismantled and those prints were moved to the storage with frames detached. The appearance of Leykam Room in Palace Museum basically maintained a small tea house with the length 440 centimeter and the width 370 centimeter roughly. Based on visual contents, those woodcuts were basically determined as Gusu prints, which date was not later than middle 18th century. And the position of prints in the room was shown as a picture. Actually, 7 topics constituted these 28 pieces of prints, with the number of those as followed. Number 1, number 2, number 5, 1 piece. Number 3, number 4, 2 pieces. Number 6, 10 pieces. And number 7, 11 pieces. The inscription in number 1 might be Lianchang Palace, an imperial palace in the 7th century, which have frequently been the topic of Chinese painters, such as Li Zhaodao and Tang Yin, depicting the landscape in a magnificent garden where beauties and the children live. In the remainder inscription, palace loneliness was presented. For example, only a couple of the cats. Or appreciating the melody made by a lonely lady, while the host, the emperor, was absent, and it could be joined with another print, a picture of the prevalence, riches, and honor, Lou Ge Fugui Tu, collected in the Umi-Mori Art Museum, Japan. The number 2, killing brings sons to families, which usually symbolize the fertility and the prosperity, could be compared with the porcelain jars during Kangxi period. In New Year, woodcut pictures similar subject of kids riding killing and holding osmanthus blossoms or harbard imply the homophonic blessing praying for good luck in spring's festival. For example, the sound of the osmanthus blossoms and ruyi or harbard in Chinese is similar for the word noble, smoothly, and promotion, respectively. The number 3, Yu Qiao Geng Du, Fisher woodcutter, farmer, and scholar, the classic theme in Chinese culture. Symbolizing the life of hermit could be compared with another hand-painted printing collected in Kobe City Museum, Japan. The number 4, Taozhu Zhifutu, referring to the similar print collected by Mr. Christoph Funderburg. Here in after number 4 and 1 for short. So it should be Taozhu creating wealth, portraying a rich man living with his families in a splendid garden, with another hand painting printing collected in Umi-Mori Museum, Japan, here in after number 4 and 2 for short. And Taozhu Gong, Fan Li, a legendary figure, a great politician, a hermit, a successful businessman, lived in Dingtao County, Shandong Province, finally becoming the god of future in folklore. According to analysis of impressions caused by crackers on board, number 4 and 2, and number 4 and 1 should come from the same version, and the later returned the full size, 109 lengths, 57 width centimeter, in which signed Gusu Ji Ziming, issued by Ji Ziming in Suzhou. So the number 5, Gusu Huqiu Zhi, a record of Huqiu Hill in Suzhou, should share the same wood block with another hand-painted version collected by Mr. Christoph Funderburg. Refer to the details of woodcuts. Basically, the central axis and the positional relation of scenic sites, such as the Jianchi Pond, Qianren Rock, and Han Han Spring, in the picture are similar to the sites according to the map. As Mr. Christoph Funderburg has checked, number 5 could be jointed with another woodcut, a picture of the Fuji Bridge of Shantung River, collected in Kobe City Museum, Japan, referring to album paintings in the middle of 18th century. The print agreed basically with the actual location. Thus, we could reconstruct the relation of Fuji Bridge and the Shantung River in Suzhou City. Number 6, Zhu Taizu Fan Wu Mei. It's Zhu Taizu selling dark palm. Coming from legendary of Emperor Zhu Yuanzhang, the founder of the Ming Dynasty. Another version of the private collection, appearing after number 6 and 1 for short, provided an interesting case which had been printed by fewer blocks with inscription lacked. Same situation occurred in the 3 plates in number 4, Taozhu Gong creating wealth. The additional lines appeared in number 4 and 1, indicating fewer plates in number 4 and 2. Number 7, Cai Lou Pao Qiu, and throwing a wedding ball from pavilion, pictured a folk scene, reflecting pursuit of luck and romance. What was unusual, though, was the artistic technique of a central perspective in these woodcuts, which merely appeared in a few prints so far. For instance, a picture of the foreign merchant and a Western leading a horse. Both were issued by Ding Yuntai and collected by Mr. Funderburg. And amusement in the pavilion besides Lotus Pool, collected in the Umi-Mori Art Museum. Other cases were 2 parts of the four-part pictures in which central perspective was utilized, such as joyfulness of idyllic life, Gusu beauties of four seasons, and Gusu beauties of four essential arts, collected by Mr. Crystal. The latter described the motif of lute playing, chess, reading, and should be calligraphy, and painting. However, there existed biases in perspective in several cases. A picture of the foreign merchant and the Gusu beauties of four seasons, even in contemporaneous court art, such as the screen of beauty under phoenix trees, 同音仕女图屏风, a painting by Zhao Bingzhen, active in the Kangxi period, that might imply the creators of those woodcuts lacked a full understanding of practice, although the knowledge of the geometrical optics had been introduced by missionaries from the 6th century and diffused in the early Qing dynasty. Facial expression, hairstyle, and the costume. The feature of the figures in these 7 sheets of woodcuts were related closely popular images in early Qing dynasty. For instance, illustrations of drama of the Yangzhou Dream, published by Qixiantang bookshop Suzhou in 1699, refined the taste of the collecting books, Yaqu Cangshu, published by the Sidetang bookstore, Suzhou in 1703. The Story of Lute, 芥子园会向第七才子书琵琶记, published by the Murstad Garden, Nanjing in 1735. Expression of light, shade, and volume similarly appeared in copperplate engraving 36 views of the Chengde summer resorts, made by the Italian missionary Matteo Ripa in 1713. Hanjing Scroll of the View Clouds, painted by a court painter Chen Mei in 1729, and number 7. That probably indicated the propagation path of the Western style. Similarly, the prints from the Leykam Room and the Suzhou were influenced by imperial art, such as the landscape garden and Emperor Qianlong's life, painted by Giuseppe Castiglione, Ding Guanpeng, and Chen Mei in early 18th century. Because of the quite a few similarities, composition, and sceneries between them. And since late 16th century, optical knowledge was introduced to China by European Jesuits from the Matteo Ricci and Ferdinand Robist and Joachim Bouvet to Giuseppe Castiglione. In early Qing period, skills of the perspective were taught by Jesuits artists in Palace and spread in large extents. For example, Zhao Bingzhen and Nian Xiyao, the latter learned from Giuseppe Castiglione and published the optical study on in 1729 by translating Perspective on Painting and Architecture, written by Italian Jesuit painter and architect Herrera Andrea Pozzo. It was worth noting that scenic illusion paintings, 通景画 or 贴落, painted panels to decorate the royal buildings, utilized the elements of Western perspective for the visual effects. Relevant topics about fertility, longevity, and fortune appeared frequently in court paintings, as well as in prints of Suzhou and the Leykam Room. For instance, 贴落 in Qianlong Garden Gusu beauties of Four Seasons, and the number 2, killing bring sense to families. In summary, the Leykam Room prints should originate from Suzhou in early Qing period with a high probability. A Western artistic technique such as the linear perspective, chiaroscuro, and high Qing were commonly used in Gusu prints and other visual medium in 18th century. That had been discussed by scholars from various fields. In addition, materiality of prints and ideal methodology based on material should be centered. Many fascinating details of multicolor printing might be judged by imagined precision division instead of the features on the wood block, as we have observed from the number 6 and number 7, a picture of the 100 kids, Baizi Tu, and the Wanyan Bridge in Gusu, Gusu Wanyan Qiao, in University of Oxford of Bodleian Libraries and the Copy City Museum. Size is another noteworthy issue, which led to manufacturing methods and the thinking habits of Chinese printers. Split and combination. Limited by the size of the longitudinal block, it is quite difficult to produce woodcuts with the width over 15 centimeters, unless rare giant trees appeared by chance. And consequently, printers devise means to splice a wood block, as we have seen in Leykam Room prints. The ideology of the disensemble modules as a consistent tradition in Chinese art and craft were embodied in characters and woodblock prints. Craftsmen utilized the movable block to obtain composite effect. The same as Mingqiu font was invented in 16th century, so that a different artisan could engrave 5 sorts of stroke in character respectively. Paper presented a similar situation as well. Gusu prints with a height of the 100 centimeter and a width of the 60 centimeter approximately were collected by European since 18th century, which size resulted from the standard of Chinese rice paper manufacturing 4 or 3 feet. We could discover a few pieces of the woodcuts with full size in Williamshire, and most were modified and then decorated the gorgeous space in the Valtrusi, Slaby, Nymphenburg, and Leykam Room. Okay, thank you.